Welcome to Recruiter Wins, your bite-sized 15-minute podcast with your host, Zach Gallinger. This is the show where every guest answers one simple question. Tell me about your biggest recruiting win. You'll hear everything from gut-wrenching candidate conversations to game-changing business development wins. Real stories with lessons you can actually use in your next search.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Recruiter Wins. My name is Zach Gallinger. I'm the founder of Talent Hero Media, a digital marketing agency that works exclusively with recruiters. Our guest today is Richard Locke, founder of Locke Search Group. I dragged him out of retirement to be here today. Normally I ask, tell me about your biggest recruiting win, but today, given the success Richard has had in the recruiting industry, I will leave the floor open to him to share his insights. Welcome to the show, Richard.
Thanks for having me, Zach. I appreciate having me on, and I'm looking forward to kind of telling my story, and won't make it too long and drawn out. So
Let's hear what you've got
from there. You bet. I can give you a bit of a background on Locke Search Group. It was originally called RE Locke and Associates, and I'm dating myself here, Zach, but it started in 1983, which I'm sure many of your audience members were probably not alive or in diapers at the time.
I was born in 83, so...
Well, it was a good year then. It was a good year.
Great year.
And I can tell you my history leading up to it. I was with a partner for 7 years prior to that. And during that time was an incredible recession, and you couldn't buy a job order if your life depended on it. So I supplemented my recruiting career with driving a taxi at night, if you can believe it. Anyways, I started my little office. A friend of mine gave me a free office and kind of snuck me into a packaged office. And I was a one-person show for many, many years. And even prior to that, with my former firm that I was a partner in, really I focused in sales and marketing was really the area I worked in. And in terms of industries, those would be things like consumer products, life sciences, pharmaceuticals. And those were the two major pillars that we worked in, and still a big part of our business today, as a matter of fact. So starting way back when, I basically ran a one-man show for about 5 years. I then hired an associate after about 7 years.
What sort of led you to go from one, like is there a catalyst for why you went from one person to deciding you're ready to grow?
I think it was really the amount of volume we were doing. And I always wanted to grow the business. I was never satisfied being a one-person show. That was not in the cards. And frankly, always wanted to be a national company. That was my goal from day one. So that's how we ended up. I hired a gentleman who was very good. He actually started his own business. I think I've spawned a number of competitors out there over the years. In fact, most of the competitors, certainly in Vancouver and areas that I've lived in, actually have started with me. So I'm rather proud of that, actually. We have some successful people that we compete against that actually started with me. So anyways, we ran the business. We used to travel into Alberta on a regular basis. And we did recruiting in that area. And during that time, all of our recruiting was face-to-face. You had to interview the candidate. It was no Zoom. There was no Teams meetings. There was no phone calls. It was all face-to-face. And during that time, we really prided ourselves on basically that personal touch with candidates. And we obviously sold that to our clients. Anyways, after having this fellow on for a couple of years, we actually opened our first office in Calgary, Alberta, and with a fellow there, and he did very, very well. And then subsequently, we opened our Edmonton office and then Winnipeg. So we became a true Western Canadian company, and we did very, very well, again, focusing on those industries, which would be mostly consumer products and life sciences, although we expanded into some other areas like the industrial and business-to-business area. Anyways, in 1999, that all changed, and I bid on a project with a medical device organization, very, very large worldwide company, to basically put together their entire sales force across Canada in a specialty division. And in shocking terms, we actually won that contract. So that really allowed us to expand across the country in terms of recruiting. So we hired people right across the country. And during that time, we actually utilized other recruitment firms to assist us. And it became very, very clear that our standards were quite a bit higher than some of the other people that we hired, the other firms we hired. And it gave us kind of that, I guess, incentive at that point to look at, how can we expand the business? So in 2000, we took the plunge. We opened an office in Toronto. I actually moved there along with my associate out of Calgary. We both moved there. We actually lived in a house together until our wives moved down and we opened our Toronto office. And during that time, we hired a variety of people in Toronto. And then subsequently, we opened Montreal and we opened Ottawa and then we opened Halifax. So we became really, truly a national company at that point. And that was during the 90 or the early 2000s to, 2010. And we took advantage of, at that point, of all the expansions that happened in life sciences. Pharmaceutical companies, for example, were expanding like crazy, and we were the firm to do it with. We were the only firm at that time that was national, really dealing in sales and marketing. So we actually became an HR delegate with one of our larger partners in life sciences, where we've actually took all of our people into Montreal and they put us through a crash course in how they actually did their business and HR policies, et cetera. So we became a real fabric of our clients at that point. It was an exciting time for us. We were growing, and it was sort of the basis of how our business really grew across Canada.
Would you say that your growth was like opportunistic in the sense
Very
that,
much.
yeah,
For sure. And I think also, too, one of the things that has allowed us to be successful, and we've grown obviously from more than just life sciences and consumer products. We have a large practice in industrial and in manufacturing and those areas. But I think what's really been our ace in the hole has been we've hired people from the industry. And for example, in life sciences, none of the folks we have that work in that practice are outside of life sciences. They all grew up in it. They've all been managers in the business. So coming into recruitment, it was a natural progression for them, and they understand the business. So I think that was, yes, we were opportunistic, but we also provided value to our clients in that they knew we understood the business. We understood the pitfalls and the challenges in hiring folks in the industry, the training, all those kinds of things, So that's really been, I think, our mantra all the way through our business. We only hire people from the industry.
yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned before, you said when you were working with other recruiting agencies during your expansion period, you had higher standards. Was that related to like hiring people from within the industry or other factors, that you...
It was the quality of candidates that they were presenting to us, to our client, that really were not very good.
Right.
It showed, their selection process was not as rigid as what we do. And, right from the start, I'm a firm belief that you got to look in the mirror and go, did you do the best job you could in terms of locating the best candidate for our clients? And I think our recruiters, they stand by that. And that's why we have so many repeat clients and folks we've dealt with for years, and why I think our people have been with us for many, many years too, because they have the respect from their clients.
Right. And I guess recruiting obviously sometimes has a bad reputation for sort of just taking this volume-based approach, sending out as many candidates as possible, not screening them. I'm guessing you don't really subscribe to that methodology.
No, not at all. In fact, I think, when I first got in the business, we were called all kinds of nasty names. and frankly, it was a very unsophisticated business, and it was not like that at all. Case in point, Zach, we had a call. I was again dragged in out of retirement to deal with a client yesterday on a call. And it was an organization that's involved in the hospitality business. And their frustration was they've dealt with other recruiters. I'm not saying there's a lot of good recruiters out there. We're not the only one. But he said, the problem is, he said, I've dealt with this company for many years, and all they do is go through their Rolodex, which tells you how old this guy is. and they farm out the same old people every time. And I think notoriously, many recruiters can be a little bit lazy and just fly off their desk what they have. And I think that, we charge a good fee. And especially now, the business has obviously changed a great deal over the years. And with the advent of LinkedIn, has changed dramatically. And I think that one thing that I preach to our folks as well is anybody can find anybody on LinkedIn. Our clients can find those candidates. The secret that we have, our secret sauce, and a good recruitment firm's secret sauce, is they know the story behind the story. They know their candidate pool. They know who is good and who's not, who's basically wasting the time of our clients and who's not. I think that even though candidates are much more accessible through LinkedIn, we offer a value that our clients can't provide. And that's that story behind the story.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like I'm very familiar with sort of recruiting tech, and I see a lot of AI sourcing tools as kind of like the big new idea. And ultimately, like when you actually look at them, they're not that much different than like a LinkedIn, like a complex LinkedIn search, right? They're only looking at people on LinkedIn. They're not going to find anybody that amazing that you're not able to locate. And obviously, just reaching out to someone, especially a talented person who gets a lot of interest from recruiters, is not really that useful.
I think, you're right. And the relationships that we have with our candidates, I always said this, I say to everybody, candidates are clients and clients are candidates. I think one of the pitfalls that many, many recruiters make in this business is that they look at their clients as those folks that pay their bills, which is true. But the candidates are 50% of that whole deal, and candidates become clients down the road. So we've always subscribed to the fact that you treat candidates like clients. It comes back in spades in terms of they trust you, and they trust you're not going to, put them in an organization or refer them to a company that's not suitable for them. So we spend a lot of time looking at that. And that's where our value comes in as a recruitment firm. And it's interesting. I look at our business very much like real estate. Real estate's very similar. You could find a house on the internet in a heartbeat, but I still use an agent. And the reason why is because that person will negotiate for me. And the same thing in our business. Again, I use a ton of analogies, but if you look at a fishing analogy with our business, our clients can get the fish on the line, but we can actually land that fish in the boat if it's the right fish, because we're not going to waste their time. We know, again, the backstory behind people and what their motivators are. And that's the most important thing, is what motivates a candidate to accept a job if it's right for them.
All right. So I have one final question. It's kind of a bigger picture question. As somebody who grew a pretty sizable recruiting agency, how much do you think that the success you've had is attributed to luck versus skill?
Maybe it's a combination of both, and being at the right place at the right time. But what's made us successful, and it's not me at all, it sounds like a pretty canned answer, it's really our people. And honestly, that's what drives us. I mean, the relationships that our folks have, and also our longevity with the people we have. Our average tenure would be probably 10 to 15 years. So those relationships that they have with both their candidates and clients are really key. I think also, too, in that one thing that we've been able to do is I've reinvested in the business constantly in terms of technology. I think you have to change your organization as times change. Locke started as a sales and marketing recruitment firm. Well, that's not really our business anymore because our clients find those people on LinkedIn. But where we've really morphed into is more complex roles where they require a lot more research, a lot more skill. And we've really changed our philosophy on the fly and as we go along. So our business now is absolutely, 180 degrees different than it was 10 years ago. And I think with anyone who is running a recruitment firm, you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to change with the marketplace. So that's, a combination of a lot of things. And yeah, there's some luck involved there for sure. Absolutely.
All right. So I think we can end things here. Thanks very much for joining us, Richard. I appreciate all of your insight.
Well, thank you, Zach. It's been a pleasure, and I appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Recruiter Wins. Please join us again when we ask our next recruiter one simple question. Tell me about your biggest recruiting win.